let's rock and roll. And you're going to find we're going to skip a lot of the PowerPoints because we've got 45 of them, and we'll never get through all of them. So we've got them, some of them are hidden, and some will be skipped as far as that goes. Why are you here today? I'm going to let you read that. There's lots of excitement about Brooklyn. How many think that's the future? That's the future. That's the future where milk's going to go at this point. And you come down through this pretty well. We'll cover a few of them. How many here have How many have drunk, Fairlife? Who's had it besides me? How many like it? How many didn't like it besides me? I took 2%. I thought it really tastes different. It didn't taste like 2% milk to me. But anyway, it's out there. And that was the price in Champagne. Believe it or not, $4.69 per 1.5 quarts. So it made organic look really cheap. So that was the price that was on our shelves as far as that goes. And of course, Greek yogurt, higher in protein as well. So lots of excitement coming here on protein in our rations and to our consumers, who are very important. Here are your prices. You can see I took just 3 of them. Your book doesn't have the newest one that just came in last week, May. You can see the May price for protein, $2.62 a pound. Fats, $2 a pound. Boy, look at the other solids. Really got tanked as far as that goes there. But almost interesting to see if you go back to October 14. Don't we all want to go back to October 14? If we're dairy farmers, look at that, almost $4 a pound for protein. So certainly some real value. All of us in this room are being paid for that as we move on. So certainly we're saying, how do we try to make more money? And some people, how's retirement going? Hutjens, the answer, it's really going well. You can see you can print your own money in Illinois. So if you live in Illinois, you better print money because we're only $100 billion in debt, and we just passed a new budget. Anybody hear about our budget? $4 billion negative, and of course our wonderful, we move on. Well, the White House also is excited about milk protein. You can see they are now pasturing crossbreds and jerseys on the South Lawn. Some of you didn't know that, so you can see your president, he's not mine, he's your president, Obama, he is on milk protein kick as well. Well, this is kind of a fun slide. And I borrowed it from the Wisconsin colleagues. I'll give it back to them in a couple of years. And it simply says, where does this nitrogen go? And so if you look up there, there's 500 grams of nitrogen intake. And really, nitrogen is kind of the key factor. And now you're going to see us chase that around. Where does it go? And of course, your job as consultant nutritionist and dairy farmer is to capture as much of that 500 grams as you can. And so you can see the schematic program. And this is pretty good numbers. 500 grams of nitrogen, and I know some of you from Minnesota have to help you out multiply that by 605, so I get you pounds of protein. But this is a pretty nice model, really a pretty nice model as you chase it on around. And so all kinds of excitement if you listen to what's going on. Here you can see we've got blood urea nitrogen zipping down over here, and you can see the synthesis level here on blood urea nitrogen. And of course now we're going to click it one more time, we're going to race it around, and of course the Cornell people are arguing, how do we capture more of that blood urea nitrogen to recycle it? And that's kind of an exciting topic. So how can we get more of that to come down back into the rumen to get another shot at trying to capture that as well? And then you go zipping over here, we go to the kidney, and we're going to pump out about 155 grams out into the urine as far as that goes. Those folks in Minnesota are excited because they sell urine. They don't sell milk, they're in the urine business, so they're doing pretty well on that. And then you can see your amino acids coming through here as well. And then, of course, eventually we're going to end up and get about 157 grams. You can do the math. We're capturing about 28% of the protein. How many think that number has to change in the next 10 years? That number has to change. Because our consumers are saying, are you kidding me? We're wasting 2-3 quarters of our nitrogen, and where's it going, guys and gals? Yeah, into our environment. So this is a pretty neat slide. Simply says we are going to have to be even a better job of capturing this as we go along. So let's make this very practical. Number one, what about interpreting milk components? Pretty neat stuff. And so the question is, are you normal? Well, you folks in Wisconsin, we know you are not normal right away, so we can assume that. But if you're Holstein, you're going to have a great research journal, Hord's Dairy. That's the great research. Everybody thought the journal Dairy Science is important. No. It's Hord's Dairyman that's important. And you can see they do their national survey every year in the August issue. This is Holstein. This is True Protein. So our non-U.S. people, this is True Protein. Add 0.2 of a point if you're from Canada, Mexico, or just about any other country around the world. And you can see, so that's kind of normal. That ratio of I divide fat into protein is 81%. And you guys are little brown cows. There they are as well. So the question is, does your farm meeting this benchmark? By the way, this is DHIR data, so we're Number 2, this is an actual herd in northwestern Illinois, and this is back in December. He was averaging 70 pounds of milk, 3.5 butterfat test, 2.92 protein. If their nutritionists can figure that out, or the farmer can figure out how to get back to the breed average, he's got another 30 cents using today's prices, milk fat, another 18 cents on protein, 47 cents laying on the table if he gets back to normal components for his Holstein cows. Big number. Boy, $16 milk. That's a big number. So this guy has about 50 cents laying on the table if he or she can capture it. In his case, it's a he. I love this one. How well are your breeds doing? I borrowed this from Cornell of all places. And so we're telling our dairymen next year you come to dairy days, how many pounds of fat and protein are you producing? And the magic number is going to be 5. Are you at 5 pounds of fat and protein added together? You can see I'm going to go to 6 pounds. That's where the good herds are at. 6 pounds of product. And if you went to Rick Grant's talk yesterday, I thought he might put that up there. They're at, if you look at their numbers, they're at 7 pounds. Because those Holstein cows have what kind of butterfat test? Who remember? Worth another glass of water. 4.2. 4.2 fat and about a 3.4 protein if my memory is correct. So they're at 7 pounds. So we're going to say that's another nice index. How many pounds of product? So it brings in volume and it brings in the protein and fat proportion of it as well. So maybe that's the thing you're going to write down. Some of you haven't written down anything yet. I'm a little nervous. I'm watching you carefully. Haven't written down a thing. Of course, another thing, I like to use it looking at the milk fat milk protein ratio. We get criticized for this one because it is kind of outdated a little bit, but still useful to look at. We call them milk fat milk protein inversions. And so if you go to your DHI record and you go home tonight and circle every cow that is 0.2 of a point higher in true milk protein, I call her inverted. That's a screwy cow. Screwy cow. Probably came from Iowa for all I know, but she's kind of a screwy cow. So, for example, if I had a cow that had 3 true protein, which would be breed average Holstein, and the butterfat test was 2.8, I'd circle her. And if you have more than 10%, I think something really weird is going on out there on your farm. So how many inverted cows do you have? Could some of that be genetics? Yeah. Roxy, anybody heard of Roxy? Queen of the breed. She and her daughters are all inverted. So there's a genetic factor sitting there as from there. It might be some indication of abnormal rumen acidosis, rumen fermentation, milk fat production. But another nice thumb rule of using milk protein as a diagnostic tool as you work with your clients. If you don't like that, what are you going to use? My challenge, if you walk out of this room, what numbers are you going to use when you go home today? To try to make decisions or challenge people to say there is an opportunity sitting out there on your dairy farms. So if you're missing milk protein, how many of you got farms that are missing milk protein? Anybody got farms missing milk protein? Only 2 hands that go up. Bunch of liars. We move on. Missing milk protein. Well, you might ask, where is it going to come from? And the 2 big ones, of course, this is nothing brand new here. This is milk protein sources. I'm going to look at rumen fermentable carbohydrates. Yeah, I didn't say protein. Rumen fermentable carbohydrates and RDP. So I said, I'm going to drive one. Amino acids coming from microbes. And the number I like to use, and maybe you don't want to use it, is what I call rumen fermentable carbohydrates. In my example here, if that adds up to 40, sugar, starch, and soluble fiber. If that's over 40, you've got that rumen pretty much stoked. Now, if you don't like that, then decide what you want to use. But I say, how do I look at feeding the microbes at that point? And this became pretty valuable back when we had $7 corn, because there were some interesting studies done in the U.S. in which people were feeding 20% starch and getting lots and lots of milk. And guess what they were using, guys and gals? Wheat bits, corn gluten. High in what? Soluble fiber. High in soluble fiber. So you might want to think about that a little bit. So I'm saying, how do you feed those rumen microbes? And then here comes your RDP or RUP numbers coming down here. Levels, types, and qualities. More about that in just a minute. Now, we already heard about this one earlier today about fat sources. Dr. Carl Davis, some of you will recognize that name. He would suggest for every 1 pound you add fat or oil, expect the milk protein test to go down 0.1 of a point. Now, that might be simply dilution because that fat gave you what? More milk. And what does the fat do for amino acids coming from microbes? Nothing. kind of a bypass RF, rumen for renal carbohydrate source out there in the program. It could have a rumen effect, meaning what? Decreased thyroid stability. It also could have a memory gland effect because it's high in CLAs, and down goes your butterfat test. You saw his name earlier up on the board this morning, Bill Chalupa. This is a study he pulled together a number of years ago, simply looking at different fat sources. And all I put this up here is to say, if you look at the concentration, which again is wrong, it's pounds of protein, but every one of these are what, guys? Tallow, cotton, raw, roasted, extruded soybeans are all on butterfat tests are what? They're all minus. They're all minus. Now, if you and I do some calculations on pounds of protein, it will look a lot nicer there. But the point is, don't expect your milk fat, your feeding fats is going to increase your protein test output on the farm. These I will not read to you because my timekeepers are keeping close eye on me. But these are all kinds of lists of why milk protein could be low. And we'll let you look at those, and there's just tons of stuff in there that you can read at your leisure. The good news is they're all sitting in your PowerPoint, and you may want to embellish them as well. Dr. Jimmy Clark pulled most of these together for me. Okay, let's go to the last phase of my presentation, and I have 4 tools for you. 4 things I think we just need to be there. And the first one looked at using metabolizable protein. If you're not there, you better get there with a software program. In fact, Bill White made a comment that the new NRC is probably going to keep it, but they're going to go to what, guys and gals? Amino acids. Amino acids. And there's a big conference just held a couple weeks ago with Discovery Conference that had about everything you want to know about amino acids. So I think you're going to see the new NRC coming down really strong on amino acids. Metabolizable protein, if you're not there, write it down on your piece of paper. And you can see it's made up of these 2 components. Nothing new there earlier. You can see about 2/3 coming from microbial protein, the other 1/3 coming from RUP sources. Pretty straightforward. So then sitting here, then why do we talk about crude protein? And the answer is, you can't test for MP. You can't test for it because you have to have a rumen model. And that thing's very dynamic. But I can't test for crude protein there. So certainly, that's on your feed tags. You're going to have crude protein there for a while. And certainly, we already said, we need to have a model that's going to predict that. Now, do all models predict the same thing? No, some of you look cheat already, look ahead. No, they don't. That's either glass either half full or half empty when you look at that one. So I went back to Penn State, and this is Dr. Varga's data, simply looking at the relationship of crude protein in the ration dry matter versus milk yield. And listen to one of my shotgun patterns shooting sparrows on the farm. Big pattern. You can probably get 7 or 8 sparrows when we shot. Look, there's no pattern there. You can see again. And now she took that same data, and now she put that same data on an empty basis. Does it look a little better to you researchers, you nutritionists out here? You can see a very nice relationship, that same data point using MP. And look at this guy and gals, you statistician. An R squared, 0.72. Big R squared, big R squared, big R squared. So simply said, it just fits a lot better. So that's why you've got to get there. Why else do you have to get there? Well, because feeds keep changing. Look at soybean meal. The amount of RUP. Soybean meal, 31 to 43, depending on intake. And I'm not going to walk you through, but big factor. And the model does what? It does that for you guys again. It makes those adjustments based on dry matter intake. We also have these different feedstuffs. You can see the difference in RUP. I'm not going to walk you through them. We don't have time. And of course, digestibility. And you can see your meat and bone meal really getting hammered down there. And the good news is, your models take all those things into account and correct for you. So, you better be there, you better be there, you better be there. Great tool. Tool number 2. More from Dr. Jimmy Clark. And this sits in a great research paper. I'm watching here. Most of you are turning pages, except for 3 or 4 of you. Are you dozing off? What are you doing back there in the back row? You're not turning your piece of paper. Anyway, looking at RUP sources. This is a tremendously good job done by Dr. Clark and Ignacio Ferragamo, in which they looked at 125 different published research studies in the journal Animal Science, Dairy Science, European journals as far as that goes. And two things to see, because the next three slides work the same way. And you really want to study them. This is percent change from soybean meal. Not urea, from soybean meal. So that's the baseline. And that really works pretty much for us guys here in the Midwest. That's kind of our base. Something up here in Canada, you probably want to use canola. Or if you're down in Texas, you may want to use cottonseed meal, but it's soybean meal. So it says if it's going this direction, it's 1% above the control, 2%, 5%. And the other thing you should see, and I'm not a very good statistician, but if it touches this line, it means what? It is not statistically significant. So you can look at trends here, and you can see for milk yield, crude protein yield, surprisingly the blue one is the wrong way. Now, I think I could have won some real pieces of pie here. I got a few gullible guys that still bet pies with me. If you look at me, we lose those bets, but you can come down through here, and you can see some of these other ones are pretty negative. You come over here to other plant proteins. This is probably cottonseed and canola and sunflower seed, those kind of things, kind of a catch-all category. Here we put urea in there as well. Probably the corn byproducts, you can see as crude protein yield. It moves a little bit more to the left, and that probably reflects what, guys and gals? Amino acids. It probably reflects amino acids sitting with corn byproducts. Kind of a fun table to look at. And you can interpret things differently. I don't think there's any big surprises there other than fish meal. Looks like the real winner. What's the bad news of fish meal? You better be pretty rich to do it. You better be working for Vita Plus if you're going to do that. I get $10 every time I say Vita Plus, and so I say Vita Plus many times. That's $30. There, just leave it on the table. I get change as well. We move on. So now remember, across the top, don't lose that. This is milk, crude protein. Here comes dry matter intake. How many think this can be kind of neat thing to look at? Yeah, look at the big loser there. Anybody surprised on that one? Fish meal really sucks. And that's because, generally speaking, dry matter intake is unenhanced fish meal. Now, raccoons love fish meal. We had a dairyman that had some fish meal, and I tell you, he had to quit feeding because the raccoons were ripping all the bags open. And we move on. But there you come across on dry matter intake, and you can see it looks like their corn and soy products are your better winners. It surprise anybody here? Pretty palatable, pretty palatable. And then we come down here to the last one. Whoops, that was the last one. Back up, Mike. Whoops, sorry, going to back up. And this is milk yield. Now he has 4 or 5 more of these charts, but because of time, I like to just put these 3 in the proceedings because today's focus is protein. He's also got a milk fat, but the point is, all RUPs have different response. And look at the numbers we have here, guys and gals. Some pretty big numbers. You can see on the milk yield, 165 different studies, and enough numbers to try to take out some of the noise and some of the variation. I love the data. I love the data, and this also is published in the Journal of Dairy Science and their supplements. If you really want the paper, just send me an email and we'll send you the attachment. Number 3, and we're in good shape. I got the 10-minute warning here. Balancing for amino acids. Balancing. How many here are balancing for amino acids? Show of hands. A lot of hands going up. How many are not? I got a few hands going up. How many really aren't going to vote at all? Much Republicans just aren't going to vote at all. We move on. Okay, that was great fun. We move on. Now you're going to see some slides and it skipped here and hidden. And that's because we timed her out last night and said, no, we're not going to get there. At this point, if you're lysine, methionine at first are co-limited, nobody's surprised. A few experts here. Histidine, anybody watching histidine right now? Histidine. There's some interesting data from Europe that says histidine on grass-based diets may be a factor. Maybe a factor. Could become limiting out there as well. Nothing exciting up here. Pretty straightforward. I assume you can read faster than I can talk. That could be a little shaky for some of our Wisconsin Badger people, and they're kind of slow readers. But anyway, we move on. Here's the magic. When are you going to pull the trigger? At what level of milk does amino acid balance becomes pretty important? I'm using 2.5 pounds of true protein per cow per day. I'm not sure it's right. To help some of us in the crowd, I said that'd be a Holstein cow over 80 pounds of milk, and Jersey's over 60 pounds of milk, which fit that category. Like that number? I don't know. But when you leave here today, at what point, I got a feeling that if you go to the average Wisconsin herd averaging 45 pounds of milk, maybe amino acid balancing isn't too important. Nobody laughed at that. I mean, is the microphone working okay? Are you hearing okay? Okay, move on. I think that's a fun one to think about. Much like the pounds of product. There's is a fun one to think about. Looking at components, I think, are kind of the take-home messages. We had great fun. We're going to be teaching next week in Clovis, New Mexico. And after each lecture, 5 kids had to put down one of the most important 5 points that we covered in the lecture. Now, that is an eye-opening experience for an instructor. Find out what the kids think are the most important point. We move on. We could have had some fun with that here today. Well, here we go. Here's that half-empty, half-full cup. The folks in New Hampshire actually ran to look at NRC model, they looked at the CPM model, and they looked at the EMS model. And I'll let you study that carefully, but the take-home message is what, guys and gals? They're different. They're different. Now, if you are a half-empty cup, you're saying, until these crooks can get all those programs having the same amount of MP and amino acids, then I'm not going to go there. I wish you well. I wish you well. Or you're going to say it's half full and simply saying, well, I understand they have different equations. Those Cornell guys probably have got it all wrong. We move on from there. But the point is, buy into one. Buy into one. David Byers. Anybody know who David Byers is? Great character. Great guy. Anyway, he was using his model, which happened to be amino cow at that point, and he said, well, I just know you've got to feed 6 grams more lysine and 4 grams less methionine. He just knew his program. Based on the experience of his herd, he just knew how that program was working in the field. Pretty neat stuff. So again, kind of interesting. We're looking at this. I think at the Discover conference they updated this a little bit, but about the same magnitude. So here's Dr. Clark's take-home message. I like it. And we're within 5 minutes. He says if you're going to feed protected amino acids, you could expect to see about a 10th of a point increase in milk protein. How many have seen that? Increase in milk protein. How many have seen 2/10? I got some people who have seen 2/10 actually coming in there. And he says that should occur within 30 and 3 days, and usually it occurs with rations that are low with the rumen undegradable as well as one of the key amino acids. Number 2, milk increase. How many have seen that? A few more hands going up, more milk. He says anywhere from 0 to 5 pounds of milk. He says especially in early lactation cows. What's the take home on that? Well, the bulk tank might hide some of your really neat responses. You may have to start looking at early lactation cows to see if it's working. And then you might see a fat increase, especially with methionine. How many see milk fat increase? And especially with methionine. So again, you can take a look at that. That's Dr. Clark's guideline. I think they're awfully good. This is an Ohio State study. We could do a lot more. That $10, whoever's got their holding on a $10 charge, or we move on. Norma St. Pierre did this. Study this. Study this at your leisure. Study at your leisure. We move on. I'll pay myself. Is that right? Is that true? Yeah. I got sucker turned off. Well, that's great fun. We move on. Maybe my wife in the car. She lost the car key. I will move on. Okay. So this is kind of fun. These are 2 different studies to look at. This is basically a controlled high protein. You can see that there. And there you can see this is they use basically a commercial blend that one of your animal feather type products. So you can figure out who that is out there in the program. You can see here in this study here, in this research study, about 12 pounds more milk. Sitting there, give or take. Over here is a low protein diet. Some of you would argue that's not very low protein, but it was back when the study was done. And now you can see not only do they get a nice milk response, but look at here. Now they get the protein response as well. And then you come zipping down here. More feed costs. That includes the cost of the amino acid. Pretty neat. And you can see where the MUN data is going as well. Now, I talked to a couple different of you in the crowd. Some of you over here in the crowd today. And that is what's happening out there in the field. The cost of rumen protected methionine, 2 to 2.6 cents per gram. And this is at the farm gate. How many think that's too high? Got a couple hands. How many think it's too low? How many don't know? We move on. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. The bioavailability goes from 60 to 80%. How many think that's really important to know? You better know that sucker as far as that goes. Looks like 2 major suppliers who are renamed nameless have 74% of the business. And some of you can probably figure out who those 2 are. And they're suggesting in the U.S. about 15 to 25% was the range they thought they were using amino acid. The Board of Directors is not asking that question in the survey. I wish they would. But interesting, on the methionine, the word was more than the Midwest. more in the Midwest. I don't know if that means we're ahead of those people or behind those people. We move on. Then we also did the lysine analysis there. You can see a little bit more expensive, 2.6 to 2.8 cents per gram. So we used to always say 2 cents per gram amino acid. I guess I'd use 2.5 now if I were going to try to ballpark it. From there, again, look at the availability guesstimate, and you can see their estimation slightly lower than the finding. In your handout, we've got the blood meal. It's hidden there. You can look at that at your leisure. Last tool to wrap up, milk urea nitrogen. And the question is, when are you going to pull the trigger? You'll notice we have dropped ours down to 8 to 12. Who's with us? Who's at 8 to 12? How many want to be at 8 to 12? How many got hers below 8? They got hers below 8?
No.
Yeah. Now, the below 8, you've got to do some detective work to make sure that you're not cheating it too badly. To get them below 8, once they're below 5, they're dead. That's the good news, much like that heart rate thing. Once they're below 5, they're dead, so you don't have to worry. Some of you might be milking dead cows out there. We'll move on at this point. The rest looks pretty straightforward. I get pretty nervous when I see a month below 7 and I get over 16. I think there's some neat opportunities out there on the farm to get that job done. Again, from Wisconsin, isn't this kind of neat? You got this in your handout. If you're a consumer, and you're saying, by God, we got to capture nitrogen. If you want to get up around over 30% nitrogen, then your months are going to be dead. You're going to be sitting right over here. You're going to be over here. If you're a dairy farmer and says, by God, I'm getting $2.60 a pound, and I want it all, you're going to be sitting over here. This is milk yield in grams and modeled out very nicely. And now you can see your milk urea nitrogen is going to be in the high teens. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to see a lot more of this in the future. The consumer wants this, and the farmer wants that. What I find interesting is guess where they cross, guys. Where do they cross? Right around 10. Right around 10. For what it's worth. For what it's worth. Kind of a nice, interesting model as far as that goes. And there's your summary. I will read it to you. How are we doing on time? We are right on the money, aren't we? Right on the money. We have 5 minutes left over for Q&A, if we have it. And so that's kind of the summary slide. You've got it there, and we got 4 minutes for any questions, comments, additions, arguments.
When you recommend additional lysine or methionine, generally, how much are you recommending? You know, if you add it in, because you had the cost of grams up there.
Yes. I would say 10 grams on methionine. I'd go 10 grams on methionine. How many are adding 10 grams? Who's adding 10 grams? Who's adding more? How high are we going?
I went as high as about 18.
About high as 18. And on the lysine side of it, you're probably going to be looking at 20 to 30 grams.
Oh.
You're going to add a lot. You're going to add a lot. That's why people are hiding behind blood meal. There are some new products coming on the marketplace that they claim has cheaper ways of going. I've heard about that here at the conference. Will they name us? How much? Who's adding lysine? Who's adding lysine? How much are we adding? How many grams a day, typically? 10 or 15. Anybody else adding lysine? Anybody up with my number? 20 plus? Anybody up that high? I really watch your ratios. If you're going to start, if you're going to jack up the methionine, and now the lysine, that ratio gets really spooky. I don't know.
On blood meal, histidine. I mean, what products are high in histidine? I think blood meal is relatively high, isn't it?
Yeah, I think blood meal is high in histidine. Who can help me out? Histidine? What?
Feather meal.
Oh, God. Feather meal? Kind of a foul thing, but I guess Iowa get a lot of feather meal now.
Hydrolyzed feather?
What?
That's why hydrolyzed feather.
It's hydrolyzed feather meal, I assume, at that point. Feather meal. And I looked at the data, and it looks like I don't know what the deal is. If it's the rumen microbes or it's the feed stuff. Is the feed stuff low in histidine? Is that the problem? Must be. But I thought there was a microbial thing, too. We saw some data from Europe, and it looked like it just wasn't grass. There's something else going on as well. In the back.
Hey, Mike, is there any advantage or disadvantage to meeting your target level of methionine and disregarding for the line lysine like that?
Well, are you a Democrat or Republican? If everybody hears questions, are you better off just to get the lysine, get the methionine number right? How many think you really want to get the methionine number right besides me? because there's some pretty neat things methionine does on label choline, on immune function. Man, that's a pretty neat number. We would have put that slide in here, but we just obviously didn't have time to grow. But I hear where you're coming from. But boy, when the ratio starts getting pretty much out of kilter, and where do you want to be out of kilter? 3.5? Where do you want to be out of kilter? 3.5? Think that. I'm not going to go there. When do you think it's out of kilter? How many think? Who wants to give me a number? Say, when is it out of kilter? When is the lysine-methionine ratio be too wide? Too wide. Normally we should be what? 2.8 to 3, depending on which one of those models you use. But be very careful. I've got somebody who's using the ratios, but I would be using grams. I'd be using grams per day. Because I think 3 grams of lysine and 1 gram of methionine, I got a perfect ratio. No, I'm 3 to 1, but I think you're in big trouble on milk yield. So I really watch the gram levels. And most of these software programs are kicking about grams requirement versus grams being produced. And we go from there. Somebody had their hand up. Were they going to comment?
Your lysine-methionine ratio there, is that total grams or is that metabolizable?
That's metabolizable or essential. Using metabolizable or essential. I believe this slide was metabolized. I think this was metabolizable protein. And that's what you want to have. How many have seen numbers on lysine in the ration? Are we in big trouble if it says it's 0.6 or 0.7, 0.8% lysine in the ration? It still has to go through where, guys and gals? It has to go through the rumen yet. It has to go through the rumen. Has to go to the rumen. So that's the beauty of blood meal. Most of that is probably going to remain intact. Have I confused you? Concerned you? Was that your question in the first place?
Yeah. My question is, we talk amino acid balancing, should it really be amino acid supplementation? How do you know what the amino acid profile of the proteins are? You're making some big assumptions there and how it's working through the rumen.
Right. You had one more comment over here?
Just if you're...
Well, you got Nebraska. I thought it was Wisconsin, or Nebraska. Let's go slow.
If you're meeting your grams of lysine, methionine, how much do you let MP slide?
Say that again.
If you had a requirement for MP on your grams, requirement for lysine, requirement for methionine, which your methionine and lysine are fine, but your MP is a little low when you let that go.
I was very scared. I always balance for my metabolizable protein using spartan-3. Now, maybe that's not true for your software, but I always meet the metabolizable protein for my target milk. I meet that. Then I look at my amino acid profile from there. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but get out of here. Your time is gone. The guys from Wisconsin and Nebraska, you can stay. We'll give it again if you can hear it a second time.
Boy, wearing an orange shirt, that's a lot.
That's a rare orange shirt. There's 3 in the room with orange on.